You ever see somebody walk onto a firing line and instantly turn the whole place upside down? That's what happened that morning in Nevada, right as the desert was waking up Rachel Donovan. 30 pounds of gear on her shoulder, stepping out of a sun-bleached sedan with a rifle so bright red, it looked like a dare. And I mean fire engine, cherry candy. What the hell is that doing at a gun range, Red? The crowd busted out laughing, of course betting she'd choke before she even got shot off. I was there, and yeah, I'll admit, I almost put down $10 myself. But then Rachel dropped prone, slow and steady, lining up her shot, and the world just stilled. You could feel the skepticism hanging in the air like dust. And then, crack, her rifle barked, and a second later, a metallic ping echoed back from 1,000 meters. Silence, like someone had cut the wires on everyone's mouths. That was just her opener. Now, this was Fort Liberty Air, ranged on, stretching out across sand and scrub. The whole place humming as 50 of the country's sharpest shooters rolled in. You had your grizzled veterans, scars and stories from Fallujah and Helmand, guys who wore their experience like extra body armor. On the other side, range rats, clean jackets, shiny medals, the kind of folks who could thread a needle from a mile out, but never saw a shot fired in anger. I watched the old guard circle up, chest out, cracking jokes, sizing up rookies, and just like that, the pecking order sorted itself out. Then enrolls Rachel. She moved different, spare, efficient, no wasted motion. She could have been a grocery clerk or a world-class assassin, and you wouldn't know till she wanted you to. No team logos, no fancy gear, just a plain black case and a flash of calm calculation in her eyes. Registration was all business. Nobody recognized her name. When the officer asked for her unit and she said, Air Force, he smirked, well, good luck. These guys eat Air Force for breakfast. She just took her number 49, dead last stand, found her spot under the canopies. I remember the second she cracked open that case. You should have seen the looks people gasped, then snickered. What's that, a parade piece? Guess we're running a fashion show. That red finish, gleaming under the sun, looked like a target in itself. Sergeant Paul, Garrison 3 Tours, swagger for days pushed forward, all authority. This ain't a car show, Lieutenant. Or it doesn't come in bright colors. The whole group laughed with him. But Rachel just kept her eyes down, locking in, sliding the bolt into place like she'd done it 1,000 times. I caught her hand brush a little red glass pendant around her neck, couldn't tell if it was luck or memory or what, but she squeezed it for a second before letting go. Major Ethan Brooks took over the field, explaining the championship, targets stretching out to nearly 6,000 meters, 4 miles. Unbroken territory. When he said Rachel would fire first in every round, you could hear the air shift. People started paying attention. At the 700-meter station, she lay down, took 3 breaths, half exhaled, and squeezed. Center hit. Spotter's voice rang out dead center. A couple of mutters, beginner's luck, but you could see Paul watching her a little closer now. At 1,000 meters, the wind kicked up, sand drifting across the range. Rachel ran her process, breathing, posture, every move deliberate, and crack again, center strike. No way, that's luck, not twice. Paul folded his arms, thinking hard. You could see the calculation behind his eyes. People cycled through the line, and I'll tell you, plenty missed. Some made good shots, but that quiet, persistent rhythm from Rachel was getting under everyone's skin. When she sat down with her notebook full of numbers, formulas, things I didn't understand, you could tell this wasn't just instinct. It was science. The red rifle caught the noon sun, looking almost defiant. You ever get the feeling there's more to someone than what you see? When Rachel stepped up to 1,800 meters, her third run, the room changed. Paul tried to psych himself up, but she nailed her target again. 3 in a row. Nobody could ignore it anymore. Paul got close to the bull, but he could feel the respect shifting. The crowd was starting to realize the hierarchy wasn't set in stone. And Rachel, she kept herself quiet, almost invisible, until she was on that line. Somebody muttered about her breathing. You ever seen that before? Not in any school I know. Even the old-timers were starting to feel off balance. Then came the real break. At 2,700 meters, Rachel set down some gadget, numbers flickering on the screen. Barometric pressure, density, altitude, Spindrift all those words that make normal folks' eyes glaze over. Some scoffed, but she scribbled in her book, laid down, and banged dead center again. That's when I noticed a retired Colonel Briggs watching from the stands. He leaned over, whispered something Helios breathing. I never heard of it. Paul picked up his phone, searching for anything no Rachel Donovan. No Helios, just blank records and old rumors. The weather, shifted storm clouds rolling in, the wind biting. At 3,800 meters, Rachel took a shot that defied everything: wind, distance, even disbelief itself. Ping. Bullseye. For the first time, applause rippled, even from guys who'd been rooting against her. Paul stepped up, but his round kissed only the edge. He knew, in that instant, he was playing catch-up. Now, at 4,900 meters, only a handful were left: Rachel, Paul, and Doyle, a Marine with years behind scope. The tension was so thick you could taste it. Rachel went first. That red pendant flashed again as she steadied herself. Crack. Center mass. She just outshot every record anyone cared about. The other two gave it their all, but only Paul scraped by barely. Storm clouds darkened the sky for the final round 5,900 meters, the last official shot. Doyle missed, Paul hit the outer ring, and then Rachel moved into place. Lightning flashed as she set up. The wind howled, but she barely flinched. She worked the math out, loud, barely audible, and when the shot rang, the entire field froze. Ping. Dead center. 6,000 meters in the middle of a desert storm. Paul, looking pale, demanded her rifle be checked for cheating. General Whitaker stepped out, gray hair slicked by rain, voice cutting through the chaos. Proceed with inspection. The text tore the weapon down. No tricks, just precision and field wear. Rachel said quietly, "My sister built it. She painted it red." And the meaning lingered. This rifle was family, memory, promise. But Whitaker wasn't done. "This championship isn't finished," he said. SOCOT protocol, a nightmare course at 6,200 meters, with no waiting, no comfort, every shot under pressure. Paul went first, ran, dropped, fired, 5 out of 6 targets down in a storm. Impressive, honestly. But Rachel, she glided through, hitting every mark, her breath never wavering. The last plate shimmered in the rain. She touched her pendant, exhaled, and let fly. Ping. 6 for 6. The range lost its mind. Major Whitaker called her by rank. Major, not lieutenant. And suddenly it clicked. This wasn't a contest. It was a test. Rachel had been undercover, every move evaluated, every doubt a measure. Paul realized he'd been part of something way bigger, something secret, maybe even dangerous. As they stood in the rain, a runner came barreling out from the tent. Guardian team, stranded in Alaska, 2 wounded, enemy closing in. Whitaker turned to Rachel. "Your brother leads the team." For the first time, her composure slipped. She grabbed her gear, and in no time, they were airborne, racing north as the storm faded behind them. In Alaska, the cold hit like a sledgehammer. Paul and Rachel crawled up the ridge with the wind howling, prepping for shots that most folks would call impossible. 6,450 meters. Rachel's calculations flew. Paul called wind and pressure, heart-pounding. These weren't steel plates, they were people's lives on the line. They got to go. Paul took out both patrol leaders. Rachel's crimson rifle sang, 6 shots in succession, 6 threats neutralized. Silence. No return fire, just the Guardian team scrambling out to safety, her brother pausing for a salute, even across 6 kilometers of blizzard and pain. Back at base, Whitaker commended them both. Project Helios, he called it, inviting Paul to join. He was still reeling, realizing how badly he'd misjudged this woman who'd just rewritten what any of them thought was possible. As they packed up, Paul finally asked, "What does the red really mean?" Rachel met his gaze. "It means we don't forget. Not the promise, not the cost." And as the transport lifted off, Nevada fading behind white mountains, Paul looked out the window, knowing nothing would ever be ordinary again. Rachel sat across from him, rifle case at her side, pendant resting on her chest, not a trophy, not a statement. A vow. So you tell me, what's the real mark of greatness? Is it medals? Is it records? Or is it carrying a promise farther than anyone else ever dared? Drop your answer in the comments because I'll be honest, I'm still thinking about it. Where do you draw the line between legend and truth, and who gets to decide?